What up, K-Rugs, the sober dog, coming at ya, yeah! Today's video, heroin. What is heroin like? Facts and information about heroin. Everything you need to know. Before I get started, I do not condone any type of drug use. I am in recovery. I am all about recovery and sobriety. Please get professional medical help if you are struggling with addiction, and if you are thinking about using drugs, please think twice. I don't recommend it at all. I do videos like this for informational purposes, and I know back in the day when I got a new drug for the first time, I went to the computer and tried to research it. So hopefully after seeing a video like this, you'll have more info and make the right decision to pass up on it for the day. All right? Heroin. Heroin is, an opioid drug made from morphine, a natural substance, taken out of the poppy seed, opium poppy plants. And heroin usually comes from Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia, Mexico, or Colombia. And the forms it comes in, it's usually either a white or gray powder. A tan powder is the most common, or a tar. Like a little sticky tar, kind of candle waxy, but it's black. It's called black tar heroin. That's very popular in New Mexico, Arizona, kind of the west coast of the United States area. Now, heroin can be, injected, which is, I don't know if it's most common, but probably that's what everyone sees. Snorted, smoked, and I know you could eat opium as is, but I'm not an expert on that, so I don't really know. I don't want to get into that too much. But heroin, what it does, like all other drugs, once it goes in your brain, the effects of heroin are, so it's a very slow, it's a rush. Not like a cocaine rush. Cocaine rush to me, like I explained in other videos, I'll put a link up to it, what cocaine was like, is the roller coaster high. Heroin was a lower rush. Still get it quick, but like the calming, kicks in and you start nodding out a little bit. Usually like every part of your body gets warm right away when you do it. Especially if you're sick or in withdrawal already. That in itself was actually a really addicting part of the drug for me. If I was in withdrawal, imagine having the worst flu ever and you could do an injection and immediately, not only does every symptom go away, you don't just get back to normal, you feel a lot better, great after. So I'd be in withdrawal, sweaty, cold, shaken, and I would do that, and within 2 seconds, all the symptoms are gone. Oh, I feel good. And then you start nodding out, and you get that calming effect, and, it's just a real, if you've ever taken Vicoden or Oxycontin, oxycodone, these are, prescription opioids, which come from the same chemical. They're all derived from opium plants. So technically they're the same thing. They have the same effect. They're just made, in the exact same amount and exact same form. That was a big difference between Oxycontin and heroin as well. When people buy Oxycontin, they knew what they were getting. They knew the high of that pill. If I do 230s of Oxy, I know roughly how high I'm going to get. Heroin can be whatever. You might get a bag from a dealer and you get so high you can't move, and then an hour later you go to that same guy and get a bag and it doesn't touch you. So that's why a lot of people liked pills and wanted to stick with pills. They felt safer because they knew what they were getting. But in the recent 5 to 7 years, maybe a little bit longer, a lot of the drug dealers in Mexico and China and those other areas have bought in pill presses and pill mills themselves, and they'll make a pill that looks just like Oxy, but it's actually fentanyl and other cut stuff in there. You might see like a little crooked letter or something, you could tell the difference, but that's dangerous because you think you're buying this pill that came from, a pharmaceutical company or the government, and it's not. It's from a dealer. But the short-term effects of heroin include, dry mouth, warm flushing of the skin. Like I explained, you kind of get this warm, soothing feeling. If I had to describe it, I guess I'd basically say, like, imagine being, you walk outside and you're really cold and you drop down into a hot tub. Or like getting in a shower on a really cold day. You just kind of warm all over. Nausea and vomiting is a big one, especially for like if it's really strong or first-time users. I've seen a ton of people, including myself, you get the dizzy nausea right away, or it's just such a strong hit you throw up. That not out clouded mental function where you're just like, what? You might do something and somebody asks you something and you're like, what? Because you could try with every ounce of strength that you have to act normal. I would get high and go to like family functions and try so hard to open my eyes and act normal, but it is impossible because after a couple minutes it's just, and my eyes are going down and I can't control it. And if you've ever had a night where you didn't sleep at all, awful, you slept a half hour and then you had to go, like, let's say to school or work, sit in front of the computer the next day, and you just can't stay awake. You are just, no matter how hard you try, that's what heroin's like all the time after you're high. Long-term effects, you got your insomnia, because what happens is you get the nod out like that, and a lot of people mistake that for kind of sleep or super relaxed. But when you're in that nod out phase, you are super relaxed, but you're not really sleeping. You're visualizing different things in your head. You're seeing lights and stuff. Not lights like a hallucination, more like just kind of maybe you're in a deep meditation. And then when you try to really sleep, it's more like this you're itching all over. And not in a bad itch. It's actually a pretty pleasant itch for the time being, but you kind of tossing and turning, but you're not really mad about it because you feel all right. You still have some euphoric effects. Long-term, more effects, the veins. You see people, they destroy their veins, destroy their skin. I did poking needles in, poking things. I haven't injected in years, and I still got veins that are kind of hard as a rock because they're just destroyed. Scars, long-term scars, abscesses. People who use or share needles, HIV, Hep C, all these different dangers. There's multiple things that can happen, like cotton sickness. When people inject, they pull the drug through some cotton so that they can get the impurities out. Once in a while, what'll happen is a little tiny strain of cotton will get sucked up. If you shoot that up and you get that into your system, you get like this cotton fever, cotton sickness, which is brutal. It like your head feels like it is 500 degrees and you get so sick. Also, if you pull that up, like when you're injecting again, if you get an air bubble in there and you inject that bubble can actually go in your vein to your heart and you could die if that air bubble hits the wrong part and goes through your heart. So there's multiple different things issues come from the physical part of injecting and using heroin, on top of the fact of you don't know what the hell's in there. And when you inject a drug, the problem is it hits you so quick that if it is super strong or if there's some cut in there that you're allergic to or something, there's no like backing out of it. Like if you take a pill and it starts to slowly not sit with you, you can maybe try to throw up or call poison control. But when you inject, it's like if someone's not right there with Narcan to hit you, it's kind of game over. You could have serious constipation. That's a major issue with heroin, is constipation, because it backs up and slows your whole digestive system down. I used to go 3 to 4 days where I wouldn't go to the bathroom while I was using all day, all morning. And then I'd run out of money, and I'd be like, let's say the 5th day, and I'd be sick, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to get high that day. Then I would go to the bathroom, and oh my God, it was unbelievably painful, because you got 4 to 5 days of stuff coming out of you, and it doesn't want to come out. It is brutal. It feels like dropping concrete out of your stomach. That happens a lot. All the addicts I've talked to had some form of that constipation, and then when the withdrawal kicks in, it comes out, and not in a pleasant way. Serious lung complications and pneumonia can happen depending on if they're injecting it wrong or smoking it. Abscesses are very common. People who shoot up, and if they got dirty water or a needle they've been reusing, or they don't know what they're doing, they'll get like a bubble forming, it'll pop up on their skin, a little bubble. And if that's not taken care of, abscesses can be very dangerous. You can get, you can get part of your body amputated if it really starts to get infected. Serious sexual dysfunction. A lot of people claim that they like having sex on, drugs like heroin or Oxycontin or painkillers, but the vast majority of people have a hard time functioning sexually. In the beginning, first couple times, they might be able to do it, but it actually gets to a point where most men have a problem getting it up, and every single guy I've talked to who has told me this, and I've talked to hundreds of guys in recovery, it's impossible to ejaculate on heroin. It is so hard. Hours and hours will go by. And for women, it can actually mess up your menstrual cycles. So you can have irregular menstrual cycles, give you serious complications with that, and those can be long-term issues up until even through recovery. So there's just a ton of dangerous and negative side effects of heroin. The worst part is, how I describe it is, you get high, and I used to mix mine with cocaine. So I'd get high, I get that big rush from cocaine, I feel great. Then the heroin kicks in about 2 minutes later and calms me down, so I don't really have to go through the cocaine calm down, which is awful. And the heroin's got me feeling great. That's about 10 to 15 minutes, extreme euphoria. Then the next 2 to 3 hours, depending on the heroin, you got like a decent high, but it starts to wane. When that high goes away, and with weak heroin, it might be 2 hours later. With strong stuff, maybe 7 to 8 hours later. That'd be real strong stuff. When that goes away, if you're mixing it with cocaine too, first of all, you're going to get your cocaine crash still, and that's brutal depression, anxiety, misery. Cocaine crash is like the worst depression ever. But then, even if you don't have the cocaine or not, when the heroin runs out in your system, the withdrawal kicks in. Put a link, check out right above to a video all about heroin withdrawal I just did. It is awful. It is just the flu times 10 with suicide and depression added on. Going to the bathroom was an impossible task. I would crawl off my bed, look at the bathroom 10 feet away, and say, I can't make it, and piss right on myself, right on the floor in withdrawal. And this happens every single day, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day if you're getting high. You get high, let's say you got high at 9 a.m., if you don't find more dope by 3 p.m., you're going into withdrawal, 3, 4 p.m. And it's this constant cycle. Get high, boom, I'm in withdrawal. Gotta find dope, do anything. Get high, boom, I'm in withdrawal. And it turns into misery. And the more you use the drug, the less effect you get. So in the beginning, when 2 bags got me super high, towards the end, it took 12. And that wasn't even doing it. That was, and you don't even know what's in the bags now. You might go to one dealer and you do 15 of his bags in an hour period, a 2-hour period. And you go to that same guy an hour later, and he decided, or he might not even know, he read up and he got stuff from another guy who put fentanyl in it. you're saying, oh, I just did a bunch of his stuff. It's not that strong. Put 3 in there. You do it and it's got fentanyl in there. Psst, game over. You're done. If somebody doesn't have Narcan, and it might take 4 shots of Narcan, you're dead. I mean, the people that are dropping from heroin now I've been to over a dozen funerals in the last 2.5 years of people and acquaintances from heroin and overdoses. It's awful. That withdrawal kicks in. It's 5 minutes of pleasure, 3 hours of, a little relaxation, and then hours of misery until you get it again. And you have to. You are a slave to keep having to get more. Yeah, you get that, that nod. And a lot of times that becomes such an overrated high. I used to get high with a buddy of mine. And, we'd get high together, and then 2 hours would go by, and we didn't even know what we did because we were both like this for 2 hours. We couldn't talk, we couldn't move, we couldn't play games, we couldn't watch TV, we couldn't go hang out with some girls. We just were like that, and we didn't even realize the time was going by in our head, and then 2 hours later, I gotta go. And I'd just go. So it really, yes, there's a little bit of a high that was pleasurable, but in the end, it is just you become a slave to it. It's misery, and you don't get the effect you want.